Joanne. How you morning? How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, Jay.
Keegan.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thanks for agreeing to be with us today. How was your trip anyway? To get
Well,
to
it
get
was
there?
very comfortable getting here, traveling. Lights. What can be done? I'm happy.
That's good. So, what we wanted specifically from you was to know how you got funding for your climate change project.
Oh, my climate change project.
Yeah.
Well, my project title, or the project title for the climate change project was 1.5 to Stay Alive. It was a project used to build momentum for the chief CARICOM negotiators going to COP or to Paris for COP21. We received funding from the Global Environment Facility Small Grants Program, and without them, we will not be able to drive the project in order to achieve the project goal.
That works. So, how do we get in touch with them?
Well, speaking of the climate change project, look at the TV. Minister Regaboti speaking about the same thing that we were just discussing.
And their new mantra, community action, global impact, is evident throughout communities across St. Lucia. GEF SGP was first established in St. Lucia in 2012. And since then, GEF has funded over 57 projects, amounting to almost $4 million US, which is approximately 10 million EC dollars. That kind of investment has transformed lives. It has given people an opportunity to eke out a living, but to do so responsibly as we promote the thinking about sustainable livelihoods. These activities have gone a long way in ensuring that actions at the local level are in tune with the policy decisions that we're making at the government level. And that is important, to have partners like GEF help translate policy into tangible, impactful actions on the ground. It is for that reason that we are especially happy for the partnership and the work that GEF is doing.
Speaking about sustainability, I would have to say nothing's more sustainable than sustainable agriculture, at least in the Caribbean. If we can't feed ourselves, then we definitely can't move forward. So there's no progress without sustainable agriculture.
Isn't that Dr. Fletcher sitting right over there? Probably he may know what we should do
Yeah,
in
that's
order
him.
to carry out the project.
Okay.
I think one of us should approach him.
Yeah, who goes?
I think the short straw.
Yeah, you got it. It's all you.
Come on, guys. Why me?
Well, we're going to do the rock,
Why
paper, scissors
me?
with the three of us. It wouldn't work.
Yeah,
so it's
because-
all you.
All right, you cowards. I'll go.
That's fine. Job.
Hello, excuse me, Dr. Fletcher.
Yes, hi.
Hi, good morning. My name is Joanne Husbands.
Oh, hi, Joanne. Nice to meet you.
My colleagues and myself, we have a project concept about increasing food security throughout St. Lucia.
Okay.
Can you give us a few moments of your time to discuss?
Yeah, sure. Come on.
Alright.
No problem.
Good day.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. Fletcher.
Keegan.
Keegan.
Hey, Keegan. What's
Pleasure
up?
to meet
All right.
And
Good.
Jade.
Same here. Hi, Jade. How are you?
Hi, thanks.
Good. Have a
So-
seat.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So you guys sent Joanne to do the introductions for you, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
These guys, my colleagues.
So, guys, Joanne, right?
Yes,
Joanne
Joanne.
tells me that you have an exciting project on environmental sustainability, food security,
Yes.
somewhere along those lines. So tell me, what is this all about?
Our idea is to actually build a more resilient agricultural base. And in order to do that, we realize that we have to be more efficient with all the resources that we have, land, water, and even managing the plant's energy.
Okay.
So we decided that the best way possible was to start off building a climate-controlled greenhouse so we can create the best conditions under which to grow.
Interesting. I have a greenhouse at home, so I'm very interested in this.
Good, so we can come up and start off with you then.
You go to your house and retrofit your greenhouse.
Yes.
And then we use information systems to manage the growth and the energy within the plants growing within the greenhouse.
Okay.
So the plant has the best conditions, and also you get the greatest production from the plants.
That's actually quite interesting for me because one, I love technology, and secondly, my background is plant physiology. So that sounds interesting, and I think what you really have brought to my attention is something that is perfect because one, we as you know, are very interested in sustainable development issues. We have these 17 Sustainable Development Goals that speak to many of the things that you're speaking about: food security, technology, water security, but also anything that will help us address some of the impacts of climate change. And I think your project really checks many of these boxes. So, and I think the people with the GEF SGP, who I'm sure you've heard about, the Small Grants Project, this seems to be something that is right down their alley. So I think you probably are in a good place with a project of this nature.
Chef, SGP, no coincidence, that's where we received our funding from.
Really?
And Minister Regubert was just speaking about it on the television, so it must be meant to be. GEF SGP.
Yeah, because the thing with the GEF SGP is that it came out, I think, of the UF Summit in 1992.
Right.
And what the SGP seeks to do is really to provide technical and financial assistance at a community level to people like yourselves who are interested in community-based solutions to some of the problems that we are confronted with already. The SGP, the GEF SGP office was actually opened in 2012 when I was Minister of Sustainable Development, and Giles Romulus, who actually is an old schoolmate of mine, we sat on the same benches in Form 1 at St. Mary's College all the way right through to South Always Community College, so I know Giles quite well. I'm supposed to be meeting with Giles here today to discuss some of the outcomes of COP23, which I'm sure you've all heard about,
yes.
the 23rd Conference of the Parties of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. So Giles and I are supposed to be meeting here to discuss that. But yeah, I think what usually happens is that you submit a project proposal. It doesn't go to some big UNDP office somewhere out of the country. It's all local. They review it, and they see whether it meets their criteria. In fact, there's a website that has many of the projects that have been funded. I think they've funded some like 64 projects here in St. Lucia already. Wow. I can show you some of them. One of them, the people involved with it, they are using the sargassum seaweed. You know, we have a serious sargassum seaweed problem in St. Lucia. What they've done is they've identified a problem and they've turned it into a solution.
Well, St. Lucia Fisher Folk was always interested in doing something about the buildup of sargassum seaweed along the east coast of St. Lucia. As a result, we thought that we should approach the ministry and all other sources that might bring us closer to a solution. Quickly, we were able to get in touch with Algas Organics, and as a result of that collaboration, we were able to come up with a project proposal to the Global Environmental Facility Small Grants Program of the United Nations Development Program to develop a project called the removal and utilization of sargassum seaweed from the east coast of St. Lucia, and for conversion of that seaweed into a fertilizer for use in the farming community.
Algas Organics is my brainchild. The business idea came about in 2014 in the midst of one of the worst sargassum seaweed influxes to affect not just St. Lucia but the wider Caribbean. And the idea really came when a friend of mine's mom actually mentioned that, why isn't St. Lucians doing anything about this proliferation of seaweed, and why not use it as an input into the agriculture industry? So that kind of struck a light bulb in my mind, and I decided to run with it, and we have been able to do some amazing things. It has been, as a young entrepreneur, it has been an absolute pleasure working with Mr. Romulus, the national coordinator. It's not just in terms of funding, but in terms of mentorship and guidance as we scale and continue to grow the business. The GEF Small Grants Program, United Nations Development Program in St. Lucia, really believed in the concept from the get-go, and they put their full support behind it. So as I said, it was not just limited to funding, but advice, mentorship, and that has been a real blast, it's been really what has catapulted us to where we are now.
There's another project that I'm very, very interested in, because one of the things that when I was a minister that gave me sleepless nights, I had responsibility for the water portfolio.
Right.
And we have a serious water problem in St. Lucia, particularly during the dry months. And one of the things that we do not do is rainwater harvesting. Our water balance sheet is good. If you look at the amount of rainfall that comes down and the amount of water that we use, if we were to harvest a lot more of that rainfall, we'd be good, but we don't. Okay. And this project in Buto, it's a community-based project, actually looks at rainwater harvesting, and it's a community coming together to harvest rainwater, to use that rainwater.
The project came about by one of our trustees. He told us about GEF. Well, he mentioned GEF to us and how they assist with small groups, non-governmental organizations, and they support projects that help ease the stress of climate change, should I say. And being that we're in a small rural community where basic amenities like fresh pipe-borne water is not always readily available, we decided that we should approach them in assisting us with our rainwater harvesting project. I was initially a little bit intimidated, being that it's a worldwide body. So I was a little intimidated to approach them. I was not expecting it to be so comfortable, should I say. I first met with Mr. Romulus and Anila, and they guided me through writing the proposal. The format's pretty easy once you follow through. Questions you ask, they help. They help you with the technical stuff where you don't, because I'm not very experienced with writing those types of proposals, so they were very helpful when it came to that part of it. After introducing me to a few consultants, I think that made the job more, it was just easier. It was just a breeze from that point.
And the final project is one that I think checks all of the boxes that the SGP is interested in, and that's farmers with disabilities in beekeeping. So these are farmers with disabilities involved in apiculture. So you know, it's community based. It also looks at a slightly vulnerable group, but it empowers them to produce a product that is organic, that is also quite healthy, and I think it's perfect for what we want to do.
Through this project, okay, we have been empowered, we have built capacity for the production of honey and other byproducts, whereby we can make it available to customers at the hotels, at the hospitality industry, so that we can generate some kind of revenue to sustain our livelihood. In a nutshell, the project is about sustainable development, okay? Providing some kind of sustainable livelihood for persons with disabilities, okay? And at the same time to build resilience against climate change. Let me mention very importantly, given the experience and the assistance given by GEF, that has actually put us in a position whereby we are able to undertake a bigger project. We were able to put together another proposal with the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, all right, in order to provide more training, because there will be incoming members, new members, and as well to build a central facility whereby we can undertake the processing and the packaging of honey and the byproducts.
I think you could see from these projects and these testimonials that these are people just like you who came up with an idea and who presented it to GEF SGP, and GEF SGP saw some merit in it and provided them with the funding. And I think for all of these projects, as with yours, the sky's the limit.
Great. So how do we
find Jeff?
yes, how do we find Jeff?
Well, to find Jeff, we need to find Jazz. In fact, it's about that time when I should be meeting with him. So, hey, see what I mean? He never fails. This is Jazz Romulus for you. Never fails.
Long time, Jimmy, long time.
Hi, Jazz, what's up? I'm good, I'm good.
What did Bond do to you, mate?
Bond didn't do too much to me. It was a kind of strange cop, but it was alright. It wasn't bad. But I know we had to discuss Bond, but quite coincidentally, these three young people, Joanne, Keegan, and Jade, came to me today, just saw me and approached me for a project that I think is of extreme importance. It checks all of the SGP boxes, environmentally sustainable, food security, water security, young entrepreneurs.
You have my attention, Jimmy.
Yeah, so I think...
Can I sit down?
Yeah, please.
Can I sit down?
Please,
You have my
yeah.
attention.
So the idea is a climate-controlled greenhouse. We want to manage plant energy, so the plants use the energy for food production. So the idea is to understand the conditions within the greenhouse, which is the soil conditions, the atmospheric conditions, the conditions outside of the greenhouse, and how we manipulate these so the plants absorb that energy and put it into the fruit for growth. And that's all controlled via a piece of technology called Hive, which then manages this information and gives farmers the information in very easy forms to understand.
That's excellent. So you're using technology in a kind of closed system to enhance the production of plants to produce more fruits than leaves.
Yeah.
You all have overly convinced me now. This is a very good project.
Right.
But let me give you some background on the SGP and how you can qualify the criteria for funding. The criteria for accepting projects in St. Lucia, first of all, the group presenting or submitting the project must be a civil society organization. So every group from trade unions right down to cooperatives, service clubs, mothers and fathers groups, we fund them. The next thing, it has to fit within St. Lucia's country program strategy, meaning that the priorities for funding within what is now the 6th program period must be met. And your project, food security, rainwater harvesting, carbon footprint reduction, all of these are in the strategy. So you are on. The next thing, it has to be, it has to meet 3 of our objectives, our basic objectives. It must be sustainable, environmental sustainability, poverty reduction, creating employment, new employment possibilities and income streams, and also developing capacity. Capacity to go on, capacity to do research, capacity to do the business side of things as well. Recently, our chairperson, Dr. Barbara Graham, did a fantastic piece appealing to young people like yourselves and to St. Lucians to apply for grants. In fact, perhaps we can take a look at it on our website. Jimmy, can you show them?
It's on the SGP website? Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Sure.
Indeed,
Let's find that.
Yes.
The GEF program in St. Lucia is very sensitive and responsive to the environmental needs of St. Lucia as a small island development system. GEF has been managing a number of projects in St. Lucia in areas such as land degradation, reducing or increasing resilience in land degradation in agriculture, looking at areas such as pollution in the marine ecosystem as it relates to the coastal management of fisheries, looking at areas such as renewable energy for poor households or renewable energy in other areas of agriculture, whether it's in greenhouses or in aspects, as I said earlier, in fisheries management of the marine resources. It has also been very active in areas of soil management, looking at organic farming, looking at income generation. An important aspect of how it does its work is that it is very participatory. And in putting together its programs, in its planning, it's always it's very inclusive of the communities. So the communities are involved in the design of these projects. And this means that there is a level of responsibility sharing and a movement towards ownership of these projects. And this allows or prepares the way in terms of sustainable development of those projects.
While we're there, Jimmy, perhaps we can take a look at 3 very important projects in our portfolio in St. Lucia. The first one is from SLAFI, St. Lucia Agricultural Forum for Youth, like yourselves. Right. These young men and women actually purchase an international patent and use that patent, that discovery by a European inventor, and introduce it to St. Lucia, where they're able to produce charcoal at 26% more efficient than traditional methods.
The original idea as it relates to charcoal started off some 10 years ago, thereabout, where we started having discussions about the impact that charcoal production was having on the environment. It was at a point in time where the economic crisis was hitting in, and a lot of persons were starting to cut trees for the production of charcoal. And we were thinking, how could this be done better? How could we solve this particular problem? And we started to do some research and to think about how we could actually make charcoal production a more sustainable activity, and at the same time generating income and keeping the traditional use of charcoal, because here in St. Lucia we have been using charcoal for many generations. Our project and how we came about meeting with GEF, we started off building and designing this project on our own, from our own resources. And then Kurt Delis found out about it and he said, hey guys, this ties in nicely with what the GEF is doing. and he believes that the GEF is going to support this particular type of activity. So, being members of SLAFI, he organized a meeting, and he at that time was the national specialist at ICA. He organized a meeting with SLAFI and the GEF, and we pitched our idea to Mr. Romulus. And he said, this is an excellent idea. He gave us the forms to fill out. We filled out all of the application forms. We wrote up the project proposal, what this project was supposed to do, how this project is supposed to evolve. And Jeff was more than happy to come on board and fund it so that we could expand. Because we started off, at that time we had 1 kiln, and Jeff funded us to have the other 3 kilns to construct the shed and to do some other work that we have done.
Additionally, if you go into the hills of Beaufort, the northern hills of Beaufort into Bellevue, there are a group of women there who came together and decided, why don't they create a small micro enterprise around organic farming? And we were able to give them a grant, and they were able to get co-funding, and in doing so, they are now producing organic products at the southern market in Beaufort, helping themselves, helping their children, helping their husbands, helping their family, helping the community.
We included backyard gardening as one of the activities of the Bellevue After School program. The parents came in to assist. We used the compound of the Bellevue Combined School, where we practice our agricultural activities. After we were satisfied with what was done, we gave the children and the parents seedlings to go home and practice it. From there, we realized we have a dream. We can move further. So we then, all the interested parents from that group, we came together and we formed the Bellevue Kitchen Garden Group. Yes, the relationship with Jeff helped us a lot. It helped us that far where we were able to get a member of our team who traveled to Japan to educate herself more on composting. She's back here. We use her as a trainee. She doesn't share only with us, but she goes out to the wider community. And we work very close with the Bellevue Combined School, where she assists them with the composting. And the other members also help the school to develop their greenhouse and their garden. So Jeff really brought a big change in our lifestyle. We had a dream, and Jeff did assist us in making our dream a reality.
The third project is one that is based on a lot of research, a little physics and chemistry and so on. Desalination. You know, if we are already approaching, well, in many respects we are a water deficit country in many respects, and to ensure that we address this problem in the future as climate change becomes more of a variable in our lives, we have the Library Fishers Cooperative coming up with a desalination plant. And it is mobile, and it runs on solar, and it neutralizes the brine. So all the problems associated with desalination is addressed in this little container.
We were responding to a request from GEF UNDP through the Small Grants Funding Program to suggest or implement projects that would help mitigate the impact of climate change in our community. For that reason, we sat down at a stakeholder meeting and we decided to implement a project to assist with the issue of water shortages in Library. During heavy rainfall or a prolonged dry period, we would have prolonged water shortages in the community. So we decided to construct a mobile desalinator unit. My interaction with Jeff through the point persons in the person of Mr. Romulus and Mr. Neller, it has been a very interesting experience. I've learned a lot of new things. I received a lot of, the cooperative received a lot of encouragement, a lot of support from Jeff. Any queries, any information we would request from them we would get response in a timely fashion. We had a very amicable relationship, and the project is testimony to the relationship that we have had. We were successfully able to work together and make our dream a reality.
There you have it. Young people, young fishermen, young people, middle-aged fishermen, middle-aged people doing very good work around St. Lucia. And your project, I would like to see your project develop along those lines. I would like to see young people get involved, and also mentors like Jimmy assisting in many respects. You know, Jimmy was the father of CYEN during COP21. Jimmy, how are the children?
They have all grown up and they're doing very well.
One of them is to your left, actually. Joanna, yeah.
Well, actually, I said they've all grown up and they're doing very well.
Okay, now we're sold. We're definitely sold on it.
So, gentlemen, I will leave my coordinates. You can come to my office. Let's have a meeting next week where we can discuss the specifics. And the first step in the project, our project cycle, is the preparation of a project concept.
Right.
We normally get back to our project proponents within about 3 days. Right. And once we approve the project concept, we have a little phrase in-house. It says, we get married to you, never to divorce. Okay. You're the one going to do the divorcing, not us.
Right.
And therefore, we can, from the project concept, we can go to the planning grant, which is a maximum of 5,000 US. And after that, you can go to the what we call a full grant for $50,000 US. And after that, you can go to the upscale window for $150,000 US. So possibilities, opportunities, and we need projects. We need projects in St. Lucia.